Okay, just so you guys know, if you have a lower guide that looks like this, you think this bearing will just push off. But it's not exactly the way this is set up, and I found this out. So this nut here, take this off, and this is a sleeve. Mine was still frozen in place, so I had to give it the Lizzie Borden treatment. But got this off, and then this bearing literally just slides right out. And there's your guide roller bearing. Okay, so we're replacing some of the bearings. This is the idler wheel, and what it is it has two bearings here with a sleeve in between, and there are snap rings in there to stop the bearing from going all the way through. So the way I got these out was I actually was able to heat one end of this up and whack on the other end with a dead blow mallet, and just the force of this rattling back and forth and the force of the hammer stop got one bearing to drop out. Was able to flip it around and punch out the other bearing. So now we're going to put the new ones in, and like I said, there's a stop there, and one is shallower than the other, so this one is definitely shallower. And the way that it went was the extended race facing out. Now the bearings that I have a rubber seal on one side and a shield on the other, so we're putting it with the extended face out, which is the shielded side, and we're just going to use the old bearing just to kind of get that sucker started. Okay, so now we're going to put all the bearings and shafts and get this gearbox all set. And we do have to make a gasket for this. So what I'm going to do right now is we'll make the gasket after. Let's get it all together first. I have a new seal. This is the original leather seal. This is a new rubber seal. We're just going to put a little bit of Vaseline on here just to give something to slip around that shaft. Alright. And right there. Okay. And we should be able to just use the shaft that it goes on to push it right into place. Okay, just took me a little bit. I needed to be able to see in there, but I got the seal in place. You can see it right in that. And then this shaft here goes right through it, which it does, and there's a bearing that lives on the end. Okay, so this shaft here fits into this bearing. Pretty simple, should just slide in. A little bit of a press, but should slide right in. Come on. Yeah, there it is. So that then slides right into there. Alright, the next set is going to be this guy, which has one on either side, and they go with the extended inner race in towards the gear. So put these on, just make sure they slide in and out of this relatively easy. They should, and they do. So I'm just going to run over to my opera press real quick. We'll press these on this shaft. Okay, we have all the bearings on and we have that sliding gear on. So now we should be able to reassemble this. This guy goes in here. That one's seated. This go in here like this. I have this gear in backwards. Should have looked at the pictures. Alright, I just looked at the parts diagram. I had this in backwards. The longer side of this little tube goes to the rear of the gearbox. So I did have the gear in right, I just had that in wrong. So I'm going to put this in place. Alright, so right here there is a collar. Here's the collar. And the pin. Make sure this is the right taper pin. Yep. Okay, so that side's the smaller side. That side's the larger side. And this side is the larger side. Alright, that's in there. Now the shift fork. Alrighty. That in there, shift fork. Okay. There we go. So then that's there. So that's off and that's on. Off and engaged. Alright. So that is everything that lives in there. So we should be able to just put this on here. Okay, alright, so now we got to get the main drive in, and this gear has to be put on. So I'm going to have to go in from the other side, which is going to be kind of a pain in the butt to get this Woodruff key lined up, but I don't want to take this taper pin set collar on there. There's a taper pin through this, I can't get that out. So I'm going to just see if this works. And according to my diagrams, this here, just double check and make sure I'm correct. Just looking at this here, so this longer boss on the gear is facing away from the gearbox, so it sits inside there like so, and there's a collar that goes on in front of it to lock it down. So what we're going to do is we'll come in from this side here. Alright, so that'll fit through there, no problem. And now we just tap it through and try to line up that woodruff key with that gear. So here's what I'm looking at. I'm just trying to get that woodruff key lined up with the slot on that gear. So now that it's lined up, I can just push this through until that gear touches that collar. Okay, so I got the two bearings on. Simple enough, just tap them on the shaft, put them in the hole. Woodruff key lives over here. And our drive wheel, which I'm not sure what the inside is, and I'm pretty sure it doesn't really make that much of a difference, but this has more scuffs on it, so I'm assuming that this would be the inside. That lives there. There's a nut. And another nut. And we'll just tighten them together, take out all end plate, and that'll set preload. Now what it is, I don't know. Just making it enough so that the shaft doesn't move, plus another turn is basically what I'm doing. So that sucker's tied up against the shoulder, and then this will draw up any remaining slack in this. And seat the bearings. Alright, so apparently that's got to go in quite a ways. There. That right there is snug. It's not snug. That's tight. So let's go in here, tighten, plus it a little bit. Sounds good. Alright, everything in there is nice and tight. Now we can get the gearbox in. Okay, so now we're going to mount our gearbox. So we got to go in at an angle. Okay, so I got the pulley on here, so you can see we freewheel here. Alright, and then if we can engage to that detent, and there's our gear reduction. And then disengage. This shaft is a little snug, but that I believe is the steel that's on there. That sucker should wear in a little bit. Plus, there's no oil in there at all. So once I put the oil in there, that'll be a little less stiff. But it's a gear reduction, so not a big thing.